It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and thoughts and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me. Or something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rustling towel and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Wonderful Monday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're glad to have everybody on a Monday night, and we are getting ready for our conference this week. That's why we're on audio only tonight, but we're grateful to have my dear buddy Jeemes Akers back with us. Man, what a great short interview we had with him last week, and I'm looking forward to him being back with us tonight. Jeemes, good to see you, buddy, and grateful that you're here. Hope you're doing well. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, Chris. Always good to be on with you and your listeners.
Same here, my friend. Hey, a couple of things before we get started. I saw a report tonight. We'll talk about this more probably toward the end, but I do want to mention this fact that Peter Navarro, who was Trump's associate, one of the ones they railroaded into this J6 crap, and other trumped up stuff that they got him on, went to the Supreme Court trying to get the Supreme Court not to put him in jail, at least during the appeal process, and they rejected that tonight. He's got to report to prison tomorrow. James, it's not so much about Peter Navarro, even though I think all of Trump's people have gotten a raw deal, but to me it's grieving me in my spirit every time I hear something like this, because it just seems that the good guys are being thrown in prison, being trashed. Trump he's reported today he can't raise this $456 million to appeal this atrocious witch hunt, lynching, public lynching that he went through in New York over this Letitia James bimbo judge trial, and I could use a lot of other words, but this is a family show on a Monday night. But justice is falling in the streets, buddy, and I tell you, I don't know how much more we can endure of this 2-tier, 5-tier, 6-tier justice system. And I just, every time we turn around, the good guys are being screwed over. The bad guys are getting away with murder, literally. And I don't see I don't know how we fix this, buddy. I just don't. I'm at a loss of how we fix it.
No, I agree with you. The whether you like Trump or not, I was talking to my brother-in-law who just absolutely detests Trump. But I said, you've got to admit that the lawfare that's being waged against the guy by the other side is purely political in nature. And so he finally had to admit, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's political in nature. Even, did you see the report that Trump was up here? I'm in Ohio, and he was in
Dayton. Yeah, lived in Dayton
before.
Gave
an address, and he was talking about the need to put tariffs on Chinese automobiles coming into the country, and said it's going to be a bloodbath for the car industry if that doesn't happen. The Democrats went crazy
and lied about
over the word bloodbath. Even the White House, and Biden released a sentence. Here we go. He's evoking memories of January, and it is just absolutely crazy what's going on.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is, James, did not interrupt you, but that is exactly what the media does. They twist everything. That is what demon-inspired, demon-possessed people do. They twist words and twist sentences, and you're exactly right. And I was going to talk about this at the end, but we'll talk about it now. This is one of the ways that he's under siege. He cannot say anything without his words being twisted, his sentences being twisted, and you're absolutely right. He had nothing that he was referencing regarding any kind of civil unrest. It was all about the auto industry, because the auto industry has taken a hell of a beating, James, under this economy. Car manufacturers are going out of business. Look, what you pay for a car right now is probably triple than what you paid 8 years ago. Everything that we're paying for right now, it is a bloodbath. It's already a bloodbath. And can I just go ahead and add something to this, and I'll let you chime in. When you get down to it, what Trump was saying in Dayton this weekend, James, the country's in a bloodbath. I was just watching reports out of Philadelphia and other big major cities. Are we not in a bloodbath already? Are we not, with this criminal activity, this criminal lawlessness, this pathetic lack of respect for law enforcement because of the White House not having respect for law enforcement, without them having respect for the laws of this nation, illegals coming across this border, rapists, murderers, assaulters, thieves, murderers, everybody else going out there shooting people in cold blood, and basically having a 50-50 shot of walking into a courtroom and walking out like a do not pass go, or pass go, give him $200 and don't send him to jail. I mean, it's a 50-50 shot. We're already in a bloodbath. So he don't need Trump calling for any more blood. The blood's already flowing, James. It's flowing in our economy. It's flowing on the streets of America. It's flowing already, my friend.
Oh, yeah. There's the word talks about toward the end, before the return of Jesus, that there will be just this whole, that people will be deluded and blinded, and there will be this culture of lawlessness everywhere. And we are seeing that play out with almost every news report. And it's not just here. There are street protests in Cuba, of all places, over the price of food and this, that, and the other. And then, of course, we're going to talk in detail about Haiti, where it's, where one magazine or newspaper article said it's like the post-apocalyptic world of Mad Max that's going on the streets of Haiti today.
I know.
It is. You look around the world, and there is such restlessness. There's a dissatisfaction with the leadership in both political parties in the United States and the institutions of government. The Supreme Court of the United States, which a decade ago, was the most trusted institution in this country is under siege these days. It is all of our institutions, and this is just straight out of a Marxist playbook, to be real honest about it, is to sow the seeds of dissatisfaction with every institution of this country. And it's like a playbook we see unfolding every day.
Better than Saul Alinsky, isn't that he the radical, Rules for Radicals, that he outlined it in his book? Obama, backed it. He used that as his playbook for his campaign. Hillary was right there with him. Don't surprise me, Biden probably is too. The whole Democratic Party, they just think Saul Alinsky is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's what he called. He calls for the literal overthrow of any government function and dedicates his book to Satan himself. And Jeemes, Satan himself is behind all this tonight, every bit of it. I mean, he has instilled this slanderous, treasonous, unbelievably ungodly siege on our nation, and using, like what happened over this weekend with the media is absolutely pathetic. Joe Scarborough of MSNBC, I know Trump wouldn't do it. He should do it. He should sue the living hell out of Joe. He should sue the living hell out of any of these media types that went out there and said what they did this weekend, fomenting violence, fomenting more unrest. They're the ones that fomented the lie, not Trump. All Trump said, again, like we've already stated on the record, was that the auto industry was going to face a bloodbath. And again, you use that word, they're going to pounce on it. That's what slanderers and liars do. They pounce on words. They don't tell the truth. It's from the devil. It's purely, teetotally from the devil. And you can't shake away from that, and that's just where we're at in the country. Listen, let's talk about Haiti tonight, because that's the other major story the media is trying its best not to talk about, but I want to talk about it with you. You've got some information you told me about Haiti tonight. I'm going to turn it over to you, because we got a developing chaotic situation down there, and I think Florida is now facing the gun because of this Haitian invasion. And now it's not just the illegals coming across Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California, buddy. Florida is now having to basically call the National Guard and the four forces of the military in to keep the Haitians from invading Miami.
Well, and then in all of its wisdom, the Department of Homeland Security relocated 130,000 Haitian migrants in this country.
Yes.
And they spread them around the cities and didn't tell anybody where they were putting them. It's almost like the theater of the absurd. But I've been interested, Chris, in Haitian affairs and history for a long time. The first research paper that I wrote in college was about Toussaint Louverture, who was a black slave during the Napoleonic era that rose to be a military commander and held at bay Napoleon's forces in Haiti, along with yellow fever. And Napoleon became so frustrated with that he went ahead to sell the Louisiana Purchase to the United States. A Haitian slave was responsible for saving the early United States. That's just amazing. So I have always, had a high regard for Haiti as a historian for that reason. And then I was in Haiti about 10 years ago. There's an organization that I became associated with, and many of your listeners would be interested in this. It's called DanitaChildren.org.com. And Danita Estrella, I have written about her several times. She was featured in Charisma magazine. They sent a journalist down to talk to her. She felt that God told her to go to Haiti. She didn't have a single penny to her name. She goes to Haiti and she says, God, what can I do in Haiti? And she went over to just across the line into the Dominican Republic, and she saw a kid that was begging for food outside of a restaurant, just getting beat by a belt. And it dawned on her that was what she was supposed to do, to help the orphans and the waifs in Haiti. And she started an orphanage. And she just had a house. And the Charisma magazine, the art reporter came down, and they were sitting in a room of this house. They were eating Spam and had one candle. She couldn't even afford electricity. And she said, by faith, I see one of these days that I'm going to have a church here on this property. I'm going to have dormitories. I am going to have a hospital. I'm going to have a school. And today, Danita Estrella, her campus in Haiti, in the northwest corner of Haiti, is an amazing oasis of culture and enlightenment in an area that is surrounded by the most destitute and corrupt and filthy conditions you can imagine. It is an example of what God can do in darkness. And she remains one of my closest friends, her and her husband, John Watts. And it is amazing what they do with that orphanage. And while I was a visiting professor out to College of the Ozarks, I teamed up with Danita to bring 4 or 5 of her students, her best kids from her orphanage school, to the college there so they could acclimate themselves, they could get a good education, and then they could go back. They would make a verbal commitment to go back to Haiti to help the people. It is an absolutely amazing story. And you know, these periods of chaos and tumult hits Haiti in its history like waves. This one we're talking about right now, Chris, began in 2021 when the president was assassinated.
Yes.
The guy that took over from him, this Henry fellow who was the prime minister and acting president, when he left the country, by then gang violence had started in the capital city, and he left the country to arrange for Kenyan police, 1,000 of them, to come in and help restore law and order. While he was gone, the gangs took over the airport, released the prisoners out of prison, and the situation just became so chaotic that today it's estimated that the capital city is 80% controlled by these gangs. It is just absolutely total lawlessness. And they are leaving, and where are they coming to by boat? They're coming to the United States. And as you mentioned, Florida's the closest. And I think last week they had like a boat with 25 migrants on it. And they were armed with guns and night vision goggles, and you know, it's incredible. And a Florida, it wasn't a federal, it was a Florida police law enforcement unit intercepted them.
Right.
You know, the Biden administration has refused to dirty its hands with the situation. They forced the resignation of the prime minister, you know, said you need to step down so we can set up a transitioning governing council and just get out of the way. We can do things a bit better than you can. They sent a group of Marines to protect the embassy, and that's about it. And the situation is just going to continue to deteriorate.
Yeah. What have you heard about this barbecue, this rebel leader barbecue? Has your sources said anything to you about this guy? I know that he's really taken part in after Henry resigned and they basically left it to chaos. He seems to be an emerging rebel leader, but James, he seems like to me, he is. This man's not good. I mean, I don't think there's nothing good going to come of this because he's fomenting more violence down there, and I think he's going to foment even more. But have you heard anything about him specifically?
No, not other than what you have read in the paper about, he's just a typical thug. The nickname barbecue comes from his propensity to burn his enemies alive. And so that's why they call him barbecue. But he is just a gang leader and a thug of the highest order. And you just have complete chaos down there. The danger is that this chaos could come because it's so close to us. It could come to the United States. There is an excellent article that some of your listeners may be interested in. It's by Michael Snyder. He has a Substack posting that, and he has an article called "What is Happening in Haiti Will Come Here Too," and it is really an interesting read.
Right. What does he basically say about it coming here?
He says that by the time that turmoil is on its way to this country, this whole spirit of lawlessness, and by the time you add these desperate Haitians to the 8 to 10 million other immigrants that have come in during Biden's watch, it is going to just further stress all the Social Security networks and the social assistance networks, and we are setting ourselves up for unparalleled lawlessness in this country. And then he talks a bit too about the relocation. These people that the government resettles all of these discontented folks in, they have no vote or say in the matter at all. They're just plopped down in these communities. And you already have in the big cities, Chicago and New York, you already have the mayors saying that they don't have enough money or facilities or anything else to handle what they have now.
Yeah.
And so if you talk about a potential tsunami of refugees by an armada of boats that come into this country, we're looking at a level of lawlessness that you'd be hard pressed to see anywhere in our history.
Well, let me ask you this, and we'll move on to something else in a minute. Where's this wind up at some point? What's the crisis point, do you think? What's the red line? I'm going to talk about a red line more in a minute about Israel, but when it comes to Haiti, what do you think happens down in Haiti that causes the U.S. to get involved directly into this? Or do you think this administration is so inept that they will let the country descend into total chaos, total anarchy? And I saw the smug report from the State Department guy yesterday. I saw it this morning, but he mentioned it, I guess it was over the weekend, and he basically was reminding people that the State Department had warned people not to go to Haiti 4 years ago. And so now that's their cover, Jeemes. They're not going to take responsibility for it descending into this chaos because they claim that they warned everybody not to go down there because there are Americans that evidently are being held or not being able to get out of the country again. And yet this is another example of an American citizen being in the crosshairs of a revolution, a war, a terrorist attack, or whatever. And this government not giving 2-bit blanking pins either way. And that should scare all of us, Jeemes, again tonight. They don't care about the American public. This administration does not care about the American public in any shape, form, or fashion. And that includes every one of these listening to us tonight on this network.
Well, it's because this is my view. There's plenty of room for disagreement on this, but it's because political optics prevail with this administration. It's a no-win situation down there for the White House, and so they're just washing their hands of it. There are over 1,000 Americans who've been pleading with the U.S. government to get them out of there, and there's no plan to do that. There's a plan that most of the diplomats have already left. There's a plan to protect the embassy property and the people that remain at the embassy, but that's about it. Biden apparently and the Pentagon have completely put off the table any sort of military evacuation mission or military mission to try to reestablish stability in Haiti. Haiti's sort of left to itself. Like you said, the Department of State will throw everybody it can under the bus, but will take no responsibility whatsoever. You know, I mean, there's a point at which, you know, the United States just told the prime minister of the country, "You're on your own. You know, we're not going to help you any at all. In fact, why don't you resign? And this council that maybe we can help you set up can certainly run the country better than you know how to do it."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it leads me to a couple of other stories. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't know exactly. There's not a lot of there about this, and I don't even know why he was in London today. But there was a story in Gateway Pundit that the former piece of trash president we had, and I hate to use those kind of terms on my network, but that's the only thing I can know to say that keeps my network on the air. But I'm just wondering why Barack Obama, why are we hell-bent as a country, Jeemes, in sticking our nose into other countries' business? We can't even fix our own nation, okay? We can't even fix our own nation. Barack Obama's meeting with the UK Prime Minister. Why? And I want to get to Israel next after this, but I do want to ask you, why would you think Barack Obama is globetrotting across the globe, talking to these world leaders, other than to, again, stick America's nose into places it shouldn't be, when we can't even fix our own country's sovereign borders? It makes no sense. It's evil to me. What say you?
Well, I was taken to by Obama's visit to number 10 Downing Street.
Yeah.
Why in the world was he there? The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, his publicist, PR guy, said, "Oh, Obama was just here in the course of a visit to London, and he's here to talk about the Obama Foundation." If you believe that, I'll sell you a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, you know, he's there because the prime minister is in political trouble. I mean, the monarchy has been a train wreck of late, and you know, he to me, it looks like he's just putting a stick in the pot and stirring up things further. I don't think he has any solutions, certainly, to the British political woes and the Prime Minister's dilemma. You know, that one's a real head scratcher to me.
Yeah,
Barack Obama in London, when everything there is in chaos. I mean, they have protests there going on. It is just an example of the elites that think they have the answers for everybody, when our own country, you know, is going to pieces.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it sort of leads us to our next subject tonight. And I've been seething, and I mean, I am seething when I listen to these Democrats. And I'm going to have to say it's Chuck Schumer, President Biden. It is unbelievable how that Israel is fighting for its life. And Chuck Schumer goes out this weekend or sometime, and he says that Benjamin Netanyahu, that we need to destabilize the Israeli government. And basically, Biden has threatened to cut out aid. Like I was just looking at the World Israel headlines, and I'll just do it like this, and I'll do it like this, so we can. I'll just read you these, just the headlines, not even the story, but just the headlines. And hang on just a second, because I want to pull this up. I had it here, and then I lost it. World Israel Network. And James, this is scary when our country does this, because I just feel like it brings us World Israel News, I should say. Let me just read you these headlines, okay? Just in the last 48 hours. Basically saying that Israel, U.S. looking to stifle aid to Israel. Basically, Schumer, Israel's government needs to be overthrown. Biden seeks to overthrow Netanyahu. Israel saying there's no peace, no chance of peace with Palestinians, despite Blinken's call for peace. Israel police training for mass terror invasion. Israel comedian looking at war. I mean, the headline, just the headlines drive you crazy. And Qatar is being blamed for a lot of this. And yet we sit by, and instead of dealing with Hamas, we continue to look at Israel and blame them. And it's coming from the White House. It's coming from the White House. And, you know, his Schumer is not going to face any kind of, look, he's the Senate majority leader. And he can say this crap on the Senate floor, and the backlash is never felt because the New Yorkers are not going to vote him out. I mean, he's got in a pretty safe district. But what do you say to these government leaders that's doing this? Like, I just believe it's going to bring judgment on our country, James. It's going to bring judgment on our country if they keep this mess up. But they continue to keep this mess up.
Well, you know, in my view, Chris, God's judgment is meted out, and really what we're talking about is withdrawing his hand of favor. God's judgment has two levels to it. There's a personal level. If you don't accept Jesus Christ, the judgment will follow. And then countries, not individuals, countries are judged in two ways. Number one, their policy towards Israel.
Yes.
You know, he who blesses Israel, et cetera, et cetera. There are all these admonitions in Scripture. You know, if your country lambasts Israel, it's going to have consequences. And so, you know, there's a country judgment, and I agree with you. I think at the supernatural and spiritual level, and the other one is sin in the leadership. And it says a country in the Old Testament, it talks about the very nature itself will start to vomit up the sin. And we're starting to see that in these extremes of these weather events around the country. It is the land itself vomiting up the sin of the leadership of our country. And I'll tell you, I agree with you. We place ourselves in spiritual peril when we start to openly criticize and separate ourselves from Israel. And that's one in the recent era for sure. One of the ways that the blessings of this country
are going to be cut off
has been enhanced, and we are threatening with these types of policies to cut things off. All eyes now are on the upcoming, you know, military operations against Rafah, because the Israelis, the IDF, Netanyahu, and the entire Israeli government think that you have to go into Rafah if you are going to deal a death blow to Hamas.
I know.
And so, all of a sudden you have the administration getting cold feet when the Israelis are talking about going in there and wiping them out. We can't be responsible for that. What would it look like in the eyes of the world? And what would it look like among the other Arab countries? And Netanyahu is holding a hard line. He says, we don't care what kind of international pressure there is. We're going to go into Rafah and we're going to deal with Hamas. We've got to do it. It's their last bastion. And all of a sudden you see Hamas starting to say, well, maybe we can start negotiating some terms to a ceasefire. And it's because they know that if the Israelis go into Rafah, their game is up.
Their game is up. That's right. Do you think, a couple of questions as it relates to this, Biden and him spoke. He spoke today to Netanyahu for the first time since this rift has went public. I talked with Ruth Goodenheim over in Nashville here a few weeks ago, and she told me, and a lot of the people that were there said, look, America has a right to disagree with Israel. Israel has a right to disagree with America. But what happens, Jeemes, is when they do this publicly, Hamas and these other terrorist groups, when they see any distance between America and Israel, they get emboldened and they believe that there's an opening that they can do their things and there's going to be no consequences for them in the world situation. And the other thing is, I'm just curious what you think Biden said to Netanyahu. Netanyahu said to Biden, I mean, I don't see this rift being settled, but they don't need to be doing it publicly. And that's what makes it so bad, because the world is watching. And despite us having an Alzheimer's patient in the White House, he is still the president. He speaks for our country, and he needs to understand that. I don't think he understands that, and I don't think he's ever understood that. What say you, buddy?
Well, I'm not sure what they said to each other. I know that the Israelis sent a delegation to explain to the senior levels of the administration, lay out sort of the plan of what they've got to do. And then all of a sudden you have a release of a statement, I think this afternoon. Well, the Israelis can go about their things in an orderly, fashion. And so it was sort of a strange, squirrely language, Well, are we going to stop providing them if they go into stop providing military assistance to them if they go into Rafah?
That's what the one of the stories was about, that Biden has basically told them that he is going to cut their aid off if they go into Rafah. He called it a red line over the weekend, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but don't you find that rich coming from this bunch that when Obama told Syria back in 2016, right before he left office, that if they use chemical weapons, 15, whenever it was, if they use chemical weapons against their people, that would be a red line. We did nothing. And now Biden is putting a red line on Israel. If they go into Rafah, he's going to cut off money, which he's doing. I mean, is that not evil beyond words? I didn't mean to interrupt you. You can keep going, but it's evil, Jeemes. It's what we're dealing with in the White House, and it's very dangerous for our country. It's dangerous for the world, buddy.
Well, this whole phrase of red lines, you have Obama's invisible red line. And so it's hard telling with Biden whether a red line will really stick. But there's no question, to use your word, it emboldens Israel's enemies. Hezbollah's chief Nasrallah said recently, in the last couple of days, that a red line is the Israeli invasion of Rafah.
Yes.
If they go into Rafah, we're going to launch more missiles and this, that, and the other. And, And that's where the real danger for Israel lies, and that's to the north, because Hezbollah, the Iranian-supported group, Shia group that's in southern Lebanon, they do have military potential, and they would be tough to root out if Israel and Hezbollah were to square off again.
Do you think, have you had any thoughts or heard anything today about the meeting that they had with Iran? Because that's another developing story late tonight. And then we're going to ask one other question to you about something, and then we're going to take a few questions from our audience. But do you have any idea why America, of all the freaking times, my friend, in the middle of this conflict, would send a delegation to Iran?
You know, that one's there are a lot of things that go on, Chris, right now that I do not have any particular insight into, that are just real head scratchers. I mean, TikTok blaming the Jews for the congressional ban. Things, this whole idea of governments falling into this anti-Semitic trap and us courting Israel's enemies. I just, it all smells fishy to me.
Yeah.
From a distance. I do not have any particular insights. Are they maneuvering towards a face-saving ceasefire for Hamas?
I don't know.
Probably so.
I have no idea. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Listen. We're down to a few. About a half hour here, 20 minutes, but I want to ask you another question about an unrelated topic, but it's sort of related to what we're talking about tonight in the head scratchers. If me and you on this network tonight called for the assassination, or we hoped for the assassination of Joe Biden, they would come get us, James. They would put us in jail because that's a crime. Okay?
Yes.
A former ESPN reporter, and not a good one, Keith Olbermann, over the weekend literally tweeted out he hoped, put it on a video, that he hoped for the assassination of Donald Trump. That's a former president. You can't do it to a former president no more than you can a sitting president. That's a felony, and that is punishable by going to jail. The Secret Service comes to visit your home, and they carry you away in the night, and you, as you should be, if you're threatening the president or a former president, you got a problem. And why is that? And I guess it goes back to we'll circle back to what we started at the beginning. Why is justice one way for Keith Olbermann? They turn a blind eye to that. And if me and you said it, we would be having this interview in a jail cell tonight.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it. But Keith Olbermann, he was terrible as an ESPN sports analyst, and he's even worse. He has strayed further off the reservation when he entered the world of politics. So it's hard to regard him seriously. But to your point, there are two separate interpretations of justice. If you threaten to assassinate a former president of this country, and just everybody sort of laughs and chuckles at the notion, if he would do the same thing and mention Joe Biden, like you say, he would be surrounded with agents that day and trotted off to jail.
I was about to say, exactly. Me and you wouldn't even have to say it. If he did that and said Joe Biden's name instead of Donald Trump's name, you're absolutely 1,000,000% right, my friend. They would have put him in jail.
Yeah. And why does the mainstream sort of giggle at one threat and would be all in on prosecuting anybody that made a threat to the other person? I mean, it's just an example of there are different standards of acceptability depending on who you are. And for Donald Trump, now he's outspoken. He shoots himself in the foot. You know, there are a number of charges that can be laid at his feet, but one is that he deserves respect as a former president of this country, and he is not getting it either in the courts, in the court of public opinion, in my view, and certainly not in the mainstream media. And he deserves, as a modicum, that sort of respect.
Yeah. You know, I want to ask you one quick question. By the way, folks, if you've got a question for Jeemes on tonight's topic, please put it in our Facebook and our YouTube channel. If you on Twitter, if you email us at McFilesForum@gmail.com, we'll sort of pick it up there. Also, the other thing that I heard about this weekend, which I didn't find surprising, but I thought it was sort of scumbaggery. What do you think? What do you think about Pence going out there this weekend and saying, I am not going to support Donald Trump? Pence wasn't going to get elected to be janitor of the Motel 6. He ain't even going to get elected to be trash collector at the Motel 6. He ended his political career long ago, but Jeemes, when you see this kind of stuff from these people, what you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I thought that the addition of Pence to the ticket, I thought he brought a lot of conservatives to the party. There's a high regard for Pence. He's sort of threw Trump under the bus here of late. But did you see today where the press asked him about Trump's bloodbath remarks? Didn't that go far beyond the pale? And Pence said, no, he was talking about tariffs on automobiles coming to this country. That's what, the context of that statement was.
Right.
So good on him. He stood his ground on that. I have disagreements with Pence on other things, but I thought he showed himself good today.
Do you think that it's going to help or hurt Trump? I don't think it hurts Trump, but it hurts Pence more than Trump for that kind of statement that he's not going to support him, though. Would you say that at least?
Yeah. I don't think he acted with good political instincts in making that decision. I'll just leave it that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Folks, actually, Carol Smith, good to see you, Carol. Carol's one of our listeners, precious lady. And Carol, she's asking, what is Egypt's position? You know, I read something tonight on Israel and Rafah. You know, I read something tonight, James, and I'll let you chime in on it, that they are actually welcoming Hamas in certain parts of Egypt. And I don't know what that bodes. I don't know if that's just fringe elements down there. But what's your take on Egypt? They've been sort of quiet. They've been on the sideline of this. Where do you think they fall on this discussion about Israel, Hamas, and the Rafah situation?
Well, for one thing, they are fearing like we're fearing a tsunami from. They are fearing a tsunami of desperate people coming across their border from Gaza if things go really haywire and the Israelis move into Rafah in a big way. So they're concerned about all of that. They have leveraged things for additional U.S. military aid. You know, the relationship I used to teach a history of the Middle East in the modern era, and I focused on 1979 when Israel and Egypt made a peace agreement, basically Sadat's personal decision to do that, which cost him his life. But that peace agreement is the longest lasting peace agreement now in the Middle East, and so Egypt has a lot to lose if they go too far in criticizing Israel, and yet they're trying to keep they're just sort of on a tightrope, and they have been for several years. But Gaza has exacerbated the relationships with Israel that they really need to keep intact.
Yeah, they do. How about Jordan? I'll ask that question. What's your thoughts on Jordan? There again, Abdullah was over here just a month ago, and look, if you're in the Bible prophecy like I am, Jordan's going to play a huge role in the end. But like politically right now, what's your thoughts on Jordan? Are there any? Does Israel? Let me just ask a blunt question to you. Does Israel have any friends right now in the Middle East or in the world right now? Because I can't name them on one hand myself, buddy. I don't know if she's got any friends. Does she?
No, not that will admit they're friends.
That's a good point.
They have a lot of channels to countries that go unnoticed and unmentioned, and I think some of those channels involve Jordan. Jordan had historically had its own problem with Palestinian refugees. It admitted hundreds of them, and then they rose up and tried to overthrow the government. So Jordan is one of those Middle East countries, and you can name a bunch of them, that refuse to take Palestinian refugees in. They expect Israel to make every accommodation, but they make none. And Jordan's one of those countries. They have a whole lot to lose in Jerusalem, and so they're on tender hooks when it comes to their relations with Israel.
Who will? Let's just say this: if Hezbollah attacks from the north. Because I'm hearing that. I think Brad was last week. He was mentioning that Hezbollah is a growing threat, even in the real time events. What is in James Akers' mind? What is the red line to you that tips this thing over to a world conflict? What is the one thing that happens that causes the whole world to go up in smoke? Is it Iran, or is it something else that Israel does or don't do?
The Hezbollah-Iranian relationship, which I used to watch closely, that relationship is very, very interesting. Nasrallah recently said, "We'll make our own decisions. We're not puppets of Iran." And I think probably the consensus in the United States, in those communities that watch those two entities, think that there is an influence tug and pull that Tehran can certainly leverage on Hezbollah. But if you posit a situation where Hezbollah regulars come pouring through those tunnels that they have been building for years on the Israeli border, they come across the Litani River and they pour into Israel, then that, my friend, is a recipe for disaster. If the United States does what it's committed privately, I'm sure, to Israel to do, they will help eliminate Hezbollah, and you have the entire fiction of the country. You have a terrorist group now that actually occupies a country in Lebanon, and so you have the fiction of Lebanon, which we have supported over the years. Once the Israelis hit Beirut and just absolutely wipe it out, that is a true red line. You're going to the contagion is going to spread. Saudi Arabia will have to decide whose side it's on. You have Iran that try to come in a big way, and Syria has to decide, and Jordan has to decide, and so that's a true red line to me. If Hezbollah, and Hezbollah knows it, they know that they're the key to disaster in the Middle East. Should they come in a big way, threaten Israel, some of the towns in the north of Israel, the military installations in Israel, then you have the specter of those Jericho missiles that are sitting there. That is, for Israel, the great equalizer.
Yeah, very true, buddy. Very, very true. My friend,
so my
Go ahead.
personal view, Chris, that's a red line. And Hezbollah knows that it's a red line.
Yeah.
And that's why they have been so reluctant. It's sort of been a tit for tat with the rocket volleys in Israel, with the airstrikes in the Bekaa Valley and that sort of thing. And all of that, see, these guys have danced together for a long time. There are rules to this dance that we don't know about, but that they have developed and have an instinctive feel about. We can go so far, but we can't go farther than that. That's the dance that goes on. That they know the rules of that engagement. We have no idea.
Well said, buddy. I couldn't agree with you more. One final question. Got to wrap it up on this from Corey Aguilar, and I'm going to chime in on this a little bit too. She says, who the heck does Schumer think he is calling for a re-election in Israel? Shouldn't the church be raising their voices against this nonsense? The left would be protesting. I agree with what she's saying, but James, the issue and what the church should do and what the church is doing is two different things, sadly, because a lot of the church agrees with Schumer, because a lot of the church has absolutely no understanding of Israel. And what we should be doing and what we are doing is always going to be two different things. What this country should be doing and what the country will do and is doing is two different things right now. It is nonsense, and the left would have a different standard if this was one of the nations they supported. I put it like this, I bet you Schumer wouldn't go out there and say Ukraine needed to have new elections, would he? Because we're funneling all sorts of billions and billions of stupid money that we're giving to an extortioner and a gay actor who's posing as a president. So that's okay. But God forbid that we fund Israel's fight against terrorists and rapists and murderers and baby killers and baby burners. Her question is good, but honestly, that question cannot be answered because what the church should do and what the church is doing is always going to be two different things. I'm sad to say in these last days, and I'll let you wrap it up on that one. Final thoughts, buddy.
Yes, I agree with you. What the church should be doing is far removed from what it is doing. We've had our patriotism so diluted in this country. We've had common sense so diluted with this woke madness. There's a great article, Chris. It's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, and it compares the United States to 1933 Germany.
Yes.
And one of the points the author makes is that in Germany, ideology came to control education rather than critical thinking. Ideology came to control science rather than legitimate scientific research. And it was such an effect that it was completely detrimental to the nation. I think our education system has become so watered down that the kids that are turned out of these diploma mills have no idea of how to think critically. Any notion of patriotism and sacrifice to this country, and any notion of spiritual integrity. And we are seeing the results of that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. Listen, my friend, we're going to get you back on just a few weeks. I know the world will be just as crazy in 2 weeks as it is tonight. And we will get the wonderful Jeemes Akers take on this crazy, insane world soon. Thank you for being with me on this Monday night. It's a good day. always when we have you, my friend. And I want to thank you so much for your insight and your friendship. Looking forward to seeing you and your family in person soon. And may the Lord bless you. Thank you for being with me tonight, Jeemes.
You betcha. And remember, God is in control. He's not surprised by any of this.
And before you go, give everybody your website. And also, you got a new book coming out, correct?
Yes. It's called Pronoculus Resplendent. It is the second book in the trilogy, and it's about a Christian group and their friends 20 to 30 years in the future, and what kind of technology is going to confront Christian believers.
Wow.
And I've had a lot of fun writing it. I've had a lot of good response out of it. And so this is the second book of the trilogy. It should be out within 2 weeks. And everybody can go to my website, Jeemes Akers, that's spelled JeemesAkers.com, and you can find out information on the first book and the second book there. And I encourage all of you to, if you're interested in the future and a take on what kind of problems your grandchildren and your children are going to face, I take a shot at it. Whether I deliver or not is you'll have to decide when you read the book.
I think you'll deliver. I have no doubt in my mind you'll deliver. Buddy, always a pleasure. God bless your friend. And listen, keep the faith. And thank you for giving us your insight. These are great interviews with you. We've never had a bad one. And tonight was great again. And we want to thank you for being with me tonight on a Monday night.
Thanks, Chris. Always appreciate the opportunity.
You'll have more. God bless, Jeemes. Good night now.
Good night.
Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house farm. I appreciate Jeemes coming on, and what a great interview. And I want to thank him for being with us tonight. And thank you all for being with us. What a great time and discussion on several issues. There are more that we could have talked to him about, but we only have an hour every night. And we wanted to thank him for taking his time on a Monday night. He could be doing a lot of other things, but he comes and gives us his insight, and great stuff tonight, as always. And we need to keep an eye. Carol, I think it was you that asked a question Friday about Haiti, and I hope that James answered some questions. I do want to mention we have a Telegram page that has all these stories that we talked about tonight, the Israel situation, the Haiti situation, Trump's situation, other things. Also at the McFiles 45 on X. You can follow us there. I want to just say this to our X audience. We have had a sharp increase in the audience on X. I want to say thank you for that. And we had a record crowd tonight for a Monday night. And I'm really grateful for all you that come in and listen. And we hope that you enjoyed the time together. And I'm not Carol Burnett, but I'm so glad we had this time together. You know, Carol would she'll turn over in her grave if she ever hears me start singing that. Good to see old Mark Kaysen. Pop in the house there at the end. We're grateful for him tonight. And I just want to take this time before I leave tonight. I got a lot more to say. I think what we're going to do tomorrow night, we're going to do a wrap-up show, because we have a Wednesday night face show. But tomorrow night will probably be our last show of the week as far as the political stuff and the news. We'll do a wrap-up show probably tomorrow night with some of the headlines of the weekend and the week, and just give you my thoughts on some things, and get your questions and take questions from you. McFilesForum@gmail.com if you got questions about anything that we talked about tonight. We may come on Thursday night late. It'd be an audio if we do. But we're going to be headed to Mississippi. I want to remind everybody this weekend, we're just 4 days away. We seem to be getting a little bit of interest to come to Biloxi. It's just west of Biloxi. It's Waveland, Mississippi, Lutheran Church of the Pines. It's Purim weekend, very prophetic weekend. We're going to have a teaching Friday night about the Feast of Prophecy. You don't want to miss this. Saturday morning, we're going to be dealing with Islam's tie to the land and their fight against Israel regarding the land. Saturday afternoon, we always deal with anti-Semitism. We'll deal with it again this weekend for the folks in Mississippi. Some of the things you've heard before, some things you haven't. And then Saturday night, we're going to be dealing with a great deal of what we're dealing with in our morning Bible study, which we have on the McFiles Faith Network, which we encourage you to come join us at and listen in the morning. I see several of the students out there tonight. We're grateful for them. So please be with us this weekend, and we'll start at 7 o'clock Central Time. It'll be Central. That's on the Central Time Zone Friday night, and then 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 7 o'clock Saturday. 3 services. They're all an hour each. One of them or two may go an hour and a half, but we don't go any further than that. We don't keep you for 6 hours in these things. There'll be breaks. You'll have some refreshments and just a good time of fellowship. So please come and be with us. Handouts will be there. We'll have some interaction. And please come and be with us in Mississippi. We'll talk about the Sioux Falls, South Dakota conference coming up in April as we get into the latter part of the month. But don't forget that one. That one, we're actually going to have Friday and Saturday just like we normally do. But on Sunday, because the hotel was gracious, we've got an extra day there. We're going to do probably a Passover service because that will be Passover weekend, and we'll have a special presentation. One thing I don't think we've ever done is a Passover Seder, and we may do something online. I'm praying about it. The Lord sort of dumped that in my heart today. So we're praying about that, and we'll let you know more as we get closer to April about that. We're trying to get through March right now, and so forth. As I close tonight, I got a lot to say about what James said, but I'm going to leave it be till tomorrow night until I deal with this individually on these news stories. We'll have some of the headlines and read. I do want to just say this. There's a story that I'm going to talk about a little bit tomorrow night, and it's really sad. I don't want to, this is not what I had to say to wrap it up, but there's a survey tonight that a local group did, or not a local group, but one of those polling people, and they found that 8 out of 10 Americans say that religion is losing influence in public life. I'm going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow night because I'm not a big fan of religion. And in a way, I think that's a good thing. But if they're talking about true faith, it's a bad thing. And we're going to talk about that in detail tomorrow night. And I want you to be with me Tuesday night, and we'll probably discuss it maybe even on Wednesday night a little bit on our Faith Show. So whatever you do, be with us tomorrow night, same time, 8:39 Eastern. We won't keep you long, about an hour. We're going to an hour and 7 tonight, so we're almost done. I do want to say a very special happy 31st birthday to a young man by the name of Christopher Brandon McDonald. That was the trifecta of my March birthday boys. Caleb's was the 12th. My grandson Elias's was the 15th. Brandon's was the 18th, which is today. And I want to wish him a very happy birthday. I had a beautiful supper with him tonight and the family and my grandkids again. And it was a very special time. And he's a good kid, proud of him. And he's become a good father, a beautiful father in his own right. And I'm proud of those grandyoungins, but I'm proud of him tonight. And I want to wish him a very happy 31st birthday from his father, Christopher Wayne McDonald. And to Christopher Brandon, we love you, son. I know you're not up listening to your old man at this hour, but just in case you hear the replay, happy birthday. And it was good to see you tonight. And we love you. And we love all you tonight. Thank you all for being with us, and may the Lord bless you. Until tomorrow, we'll see you in the morning on the Faith Network, bright and early, 9:30 or so, 9:40. And we'll be back here tomorrow night on a Tuesday night wrap-up show. Now, we may have a guest. We may have a surprise guest. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll wake up in the morning. If the Lord tells me to get somebody on, we'll pull somebody in tomorrow night. But we'll do a wrap-up either way. We'll take your questions, so be with me tomorrow night. And I will see you when I see you tomorrow. Have a good one. See me in the morning on the Faith Network. Have a good night, everybody. Put some fire in that house if you enjoy the show tonight.
That your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me, or something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard, my beard a rustling towel and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.